Officials at the Pacific Nuclear Research Facility have denied the rumor that a case of missing plutonium was in fact stolen from their vault 2 weeks ago. A Libyan terrorist group had claimed responsibility for the alleged theft.
The startling footage we're about to show you was photographed by a 42-year-old, 𝗕₺𝗷 𝑑. All initial opinions are this is genuine. What you're about to see may disturb you.
What year is this? Great Scott!
You gotta understand, Glenn, everything I say and everything I do is based on research.
Right.
So back in July, the reason why I was so bullish on Bitcoin is I had just found out that the CFTC, the folks that govern all the futures trading in the United States, had just approved the first step for a Bitcoin futures contract. So I knew once a Bitcoin futures contract started trading, a whole nother leg of money was going to come into the space. And 10K, I knew was going to be a low number. By the end of the year, we hit 20K.
For more than 5,000 years, the Order of the Flux has hunted them. Now, we finally found them. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time.
Ripple, creator of the virtual currency XRP, look it up, has funded all 35,000 classroom projects on DonorsChoose.org. It's the largest donation to Donors Choose in history.
Marty, you made it! Yeah! Welcome to my latest experiment. This is the big one, the one I've been waiting for all my life.
Well, it's a DeLorean, right?
Bear with me, Marty. All your questions will be answered. Roll tape. Okay, we'll proceed.
Doc, is that evil?
Never mind that now. Never mind that now. Not now.
All right, I'm ready.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Emmett Brown. I'm standing on the parking lot at Twin Pines Mall. It's Saturday morning, October 26, 1985, 1:18 a.m. And this is temporal experiment number 1. Come on, hey, boy, get in there. Ah, boy. In there. Sit down. Put your seatbelt on. That's it. Whoa. Okay. Please note that Einstein's clock is in precise synchronization with my control watch. Got it?
Right, check done.
Good. Have a good trip, Einstein. Watch your head.
Get that thing hooked up to the car.
Watch this.
Yeah, okay. Got it.
Got me! The car!
The job of the Federal Reserve has gotten harder than ever.
With the advent of new technology, particularly electronics, and new structures for banking systems, all of these things are adding enormously to the complexity of conducting central banking.
My calculations are correct. When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
standard of the Internet of Value. Global liquidity to any market, any country, any place, anywhere. Fully exchangeable to any currency, asset, or commodity. Transactions are settled in 4 seconds. XRP is traded 24/7, 365 days a year, everywhere in the world, removing friction from global trade to any place on Earth.
What did I tell you? 88 miles per hour!
Hey, Kelly, some interesting news from the Fed announcing that it will launch a real-time payment system to be called FedNow. This service they believe will be available by 2023 or 2024. It operates in the background. It's the payment system now. Everybody knows it as the FedWire. This will be called FedNow, and instead of having to wait a few days for your checks to clear, it will now be done instantaneously. They say it will improve efficiency and reduce costs for both individuals and businesses, Kelly. So this is interesting. It competes with the banks. The banks have been opposed to the Fed getting in on this, and this is a very interesting moment. We'd be covering this much more closely if not for a 700-point drop in the Dow Jones.
Yeah, that and much else.
The molecular structure of both Einstein and the car are completely intact.
Where the hell are they?
The appropriate question is, where in the hell are they? You see, Einstein has just become the world's first time traveler. I sent him into the future. 1 minute into the future, to be exact. And precisely 1:21 a.m. in 0 seconds, we shall catch up with him at the time machine.
Wait a minute, Doc. Are you telling me that you built a time machine out of a DeLorean?
In the 1840s, there was no law to stop banks from creating their own banknotes. So they used to issue paper notes as kind of a representative of what you had in the bank account. Instead of you taking your heavy metal coins out of the bank and then going and paying somebody with them, you could get your paper which said how much money you had in the bank, and you could give that to somebody and they could use that to go and get the heavy metal coins from the bank. Now, over time, these paper notes became as good as money. People would use the paper notes instead of going and getting the real money from the bank. And obviously, as soon as the banks realized that what they were creating had become, the dominant type of money in the economy, they realized that by creating more of it, they could generate profits. They can just print up some new notes, lend it, and get the interest on top.
Right. The whole world's gonna win in on this.
The first design with intermediaries was implemented successfully in this phase. So what does this mean? This shows that blockchains can be used to move assets across a number of steps and parties in an all-at-once or not-at-all way. It also shows that tokens, including money, can jump across different blockchain networks using cryptographic tricks. And finally, it demonstrates that the enterprise blockchain industry continues to make progress.
Over the quarter, we also completed 3 important achievements that collectively helped improve our long-term capital structure and credit standing. First, we successfully completed our debt refinancing. Second, we sold $74 million in pension liabilities to reduce our future expenses and funding needs. And third, we launched a strategic partnership with Ripple that also included an equity investment at a significant premium to our stock price at the time of closing. As you know, with our new partnership, Ripple has become our key partner for cross-border settlement using digital assets. And I am so excited to announce today that MoneyGram is now live and transacting on the Ripple XRP platform. We started executing trades earlier this week, and all signs point to this being a tremendously beneficial relationship for all parties involved. We are literally settling currencies in seconds, and to quote my friend Larry, this is really cool. One of the core strengths of MoneyGram is our global liquidity and settlement engine that enables millions of customers to move billions of dollars across 200 countries and territories using over 120 currencies. We believe our settlement engine is a key asset with additional applications and use cases that could lead to new revenue streams down the road. Our partnership with Ripple will help further improve this core strength. Our internal innovation lab continues to explore new and exciting use cases for crypto, DLT, and blockchain as we look to build the business model of the future.
Current, right, is a messaging product.
Correct.
And a lot of people seem to think it's superior to Swift. And you almost have this successful enterprise software business on your hands. And good for you, but it seems Ripple wants to do something more, which is to encourage the users of this to also wrap some XRPs into the transactions. But it sort of seems like you're shoehorning something in there that a lot of banks are like, wait a minute, we don't need this. We're just good with the messaging thing. So make the case for us why you need XRP in this.
What we've discovered is that non-bank financial institutions, payment companies are much, much more aggressive, and they're much more interested in things that can save them time and money and cost. And so we built the XRapid product as a way to kind of solve that problem. And it was adapted to the real-life situation that we were facing. We kind of had this idea that institutions would hold XRP or a digital asset, they'd make their payments with a digital asset, or regional hubs would settle with a digital asset. And for a variety of reasons, the world wasn't quite ready for that, including regulatory issues, lack of liquidity, immature ecosystem around digital assets. And so we couldn't aim directly for sort of the end state that we wanted. We had to come up with a more practical plan. XRapid is aimed at two things. So one of them is sort of remittance type international flows, where cost is very high and the volatility actually favors a digital asset, which is kind of bizarre. Usually people will say the problem with digital assets is they have such volatility. But here, if you think about trying to pre-fund Mexican pesos on a Thursday to make payments on a Monday, that's a lot of volatility in Mexican pesos. Whereas if you can use XRP, which can move across the planet in just a couple of seconds, the volatility is actually less. Even though XRP is inherently more volatile, you're only holding it for the minute or two it takes to complete the transaction. And I think the other thing that XRapid handles is you might have a bank that doesn't want to touch a digital asset. They're like, we can't have XRP on our books, we can't buy it, we can't sell it, it's just too much of a regulatory challenge for us. But let's say they want to make a payment into Mexico and they don't want to have to pre-fund and they don't want to have to get confirmation 3 days later. What they can do is they can have an XRapid customer that probably won't be a bank, it'll be a payment company or some other type of institution that uses a digital asset to buy the Mexican pesos as an internal treasury function and then offers those Mexican pesos to the bank. So it's a workaround to the limitations that we found that we think is adapted to the way to the situation. This is bitch.
$174.50. That'll be $174.50.
Here.
I'd be careful, old timer. There's a rough neighborhood. Right here, here it is.
Look, I was there when the Secretary and the Chairman of the Federal Reserve came those days and talked with members of Congress about what was going on. It was about September 15th. Here's the facts, and we don't even need to talk about these things. On Thursday at about 11 o'clock in the morning, the Federal Reserve noticed a tremendous drawdown of money market accounts in the United States to the tune of $550 billion was being drawn out in a matter of an hour or two. The Treasury opened up its window to help. They pumped $105 billion in the system and quickly realized that they could not stem the tide. We were having an electronic run on the banks. They decided to close the operation, close down the money accounts, and announce a guarantee of $250,000 per account so there wouldn't be further panic out there. And that's what actually happened. If they had not done that, their estimation was that by 2 o'clock that afternoon, $5.5 trillion would have been drawn out of the money market system of the United States, would have collapsed the entire economy of the United States, and within 24 hours, the world economy would have collapsed.
Through the FedNow service, we will provide a foundation for the future, a modern payments infrastructure that allows innovation and competition to flourish and delivers faster payments safely and securely for all.
The internet caused an explosion of innovation because it was built upon an open architecture. And just like the internet changed the way we communicate, programmable money is going to change the way we pay, allocate, and decide on value. Well, imagine a world where I can rent out my healthcare data to a pharmaceutical company. They can run large-scale data analysis and provide me with a cryptographic proof that shows that they're only using my data in a way that we agreed, and they can pay me for what they find out. Instead of signing up for streaming services and getting a cable bill, what if my television analyzed my watching habits and recommended well-priced content that fit within my budget that I would enjoy? Imagine an internet without ads, because instead of paying with our attention when we view content, we just pay. Interestingly, things like micropayments are actually going to change the way security works in our world. Because once we're better able to allocate value, people will use their money and their energies for more constructive things. If it cost a fraction of a cent to send an email, would we still have spam? We're not at this world yet, but it's coming. Right now, it's like we're in a world that is seeing the first automobile. The first cryptocurrency, like the first car, is slow and hard to understand and hard to use. Digital money, like the horse and carriage, works pretty well, and the whole world economy is built on it. If you were the first person on your block to get a car with an internal combustion engine, your neighbors would probably think you were crazy. Why would you want this large, clunky machine that breaks down all the time, that lights on fire, and is still slower than a horse? But we all know how that story turns out. We're entering a new era of programmable money, and it's very exciting, but it's also a little bit scary. Cryptocurrencies can be used for legal transactions, just like cash is used for crime in the world today. When all of our transactions are online, what does that mean for surveillance? Who can see what we do? Who's advantaged in this new world and who isn't? Will I have to start to pay for things that I didn't have to pay for before? Will we all become slaves to algorithms and utility functions? All new technology comes with trade-offs. The internet brought us a lot of ways to waste time, but it also greatly increased productivity. Mobile phones are annoying because they make me feel like I have to stay connected to work all the time, but they also help me stay connected to friends and family. And because of this, things are going to change and unfold in ways that we can't even predict. Thank you.
Minutes ought to do it. Okay. Time circuit's on. Flux capacitor. Fluxing. Engine running. All right.
Luckily, our system puts the customer back in control by encrypting payment details on the blockchain for just 6 seconds before our partner abroad receives the call and pays out cash. This way, we settle every payment in real time, every time. Instead of buying big batches of foreign currency, which is risky and capital intensive, we settle payments one by one on the blockchain, which is secure and cheap. Money lands in your mobile wallet, in your bank account, or is available for pickup in cash. And through an agreement with our partner Ripple, who, by the way, gave us $1 million to support marketing expenses, we're guaranteed the very best interbank foreign exchange rates, which other payment businesses just don't get.
No. Not this time. Come on. Here we go. This time, come on. Please, come on.
greater the uncertainty about conditions in the financial system and the macroeconomy, the stronger the case for a more gradual strategy. At the same time, the gains from such a strategy could be associated with costs and less room for policy maneuver in the future.
As I said, Ripple really is focused on connecting networks instead of operating a closed loop system. That's really what we are banking on for the future.
Standard of the Internet of Value.
But they do it anyway. People gamble in casinos when the odds are against them. It has never stopped anybody.
I've been thinking about cryptocurrencies a lot in the context of monetary policy, because the philosophical beginnings of Bitcoin were about creating a store of value because central banks around the world were profligate. But it turns out there can be hundreds of cryptocurrencies, as you point out, which suggests that the supply could be limitless, and hence Bitcoin as a particular store of value maybe is questionable.
Look, the question is that the value of Bitcoins can never be negative. And so there's only one thing it could be. It's either 0 or plus. And the way human beings estimate value, you're going to get a number of people always consider it a plus. And if you happen to be Bitcoin and get into early on, you create a huge potential market. But it's not an accident that virtually all of these cryptocurrencies that have some semblance of control with them, and the mathematics are correct, are doing reasonably well.
Ripple is very excited to play a role in helping and to explain to the extent that we can be helpful about our products and our technology solutions and being in the fintech space, and we're helping with the blockchain narrative and explaining how that works to policymakers. So that's something that we're actively engaged in with 50 governments around the world, and I think that the regulators are hearing us, and I think that they've been extraordinarily receptive.